Beloved, today we gather not merely to celebrate a union, but to witness the birth of something profound, a covenant that reflects both the ordinary rhythm of human companionship and the divine choreography of purpose. Too often marriage is spoken of as a destination, as though it is the final chapter in a love story, a point of arrival, a culmination. But let us not be deceived by such a shallow narrative. Marriage is not the end. It is not the finish line. It is the beginning, the genesis of a beautiful, intricate, and transformative journey. And it is precisely because we've been conditioned to believe otherwise that so many struggle within it. Because if you walk into a promise believing it is a prize, you will miss the process that makes it sacred. I want to speak to every heart in this room, especially those who have been taught to dream about the wedding more than the marriage, those who have invested more energy in the ceremony than the covenant. You see, there is a danger in over-romanticizing what marriage looks like and under-preparing for what marriage requires. The wedding is a day, yes, but marriage is a lifetime. And what that lifetime produces will be determined by what you plant in the soil of your union every single day. The moment you say, I do, is not the end of pursuit. It is the beginning of intentional love, of shared vision, of mutual growth. And while that may sound lofty, it is lived out in the sacred mundane, in how you speak to one another when the world has drained you, in how you fight for peace when silence feels easier, in how you show up not only for your partner's joy, but also for their pain. Marriage is not just the merging of two names or two incomes or even two families. It is the merging of stories, of scars, of spiritual identities. It is the act of becoming, not in theory, but in motion. In marriage, you are constantly becoming more patient, more aware, more sacrificial, more honest, more courageous. And that becoming doesn't happen by accident. It is shaped by every conversation that chooses vulnerability over performance. It is built by every disagreement that leans into understanding instead of pride. It is strengthened by the choice to forgive before the apology comes and to love even when the feelings feel distant. This is why I urge you to resist the myth of perfection. Marriage is not made beautiful by perfection. It is made beautiful by presence. The kind of presence that says, even in your uncertainty, I am with you. The kind of presence that chooses proximity over punishment, understanding over assumptions. Because you will both fail each other. You will both fall short. And that does not disqualify your love. It deepens it. Love is not proven in how well we perform. Love is proven in how well we repair, how well we return, how well we recognize the sacred opportunity you've been given to steward the heart of another. For those who are married or preparing for marriage, I ask you this. What are you carrying into the beginning of this journey? Are you carrying expectations shaped by fantasy or by truth? Have you made space for your partner's humanity, or are you only holding room for their strengths? Real love is not a highlight reel. It is not a performance. It is a commitment to walk with someone through all the seasons of their becoming. That means being there not only for the version of your partner that laughs and dreams and creates, but also for the version that grieves and questions and struggles. Marriage invites us into a depth of empathy that challenges our egos and invites our spirits to expand. It is not always comfortable, but it is always fertile ground. If we are willing to do the work. I've seen many marriages crumble, not from lack of love, but from lack of understanding. Not because people stopped caring, but because they stopped being curious. They stopped asking questions. They stopped listening, and they began to live beside each other instead of with each other. You see, familiarity is not intimacy. You can know someone's routines and still miss their heart. You can sleep next to someone and still not hear their dreams. So do not let routine rob you of revelation. Stay curious, stay engaged, stay hungry to discover your partner anew every day. Because they will evolve, and so will you, and your willingness to evolve together, to grow without losing one another in the process, is what sustains the journey. For those who come from cultures where marriage is sometimes treated as a checklist or an obligation, I invite you to reclaim it as something sacred, not transactional. Marriage is not just about social status or legacy. It is not about appeasing expectations or silencing pressure. It is a living, breathing commitment, a space where healing can take place, where purpose can multiply, where love can mature. But only if we choose to enter it with our eyes open, our hearts ready, and our egos surrendered. And that begins by shifting our definition of success. A successful marriage is not one without conflict. It is one where conflict leads to connection. It is not one without struggle. It is one where struggle births resilience. It is not one where two people never change. It is one where two people choose each other through every change. And for those who are single, let this message not exclude you, because the journey of marriage begins long before you say I do. It begins in how you prepare your heart, how you develop your emotional intelligence, how you learn to love and lead yourself well. Singleness is not a waiting room. It is a preparation ground. So do not rush into marriage out of fear of loneliness or to meet a timeline set by others. Enter it only when you are ready to build, to stretch, because when you marry, you are not just saying yes to love. You are saying yes to responsibility, to becoming someone who will protect, nurture, and co-create with another soul. That is holy work, and it should be entered with reverence. There is also this: when we enter marriage with a partner, we do not merely sign up for personal happiness. We sign up for generational impact. What you build together does not end with you. It echoes. It sets the tone for your children, your community, and sometimes even the world around you. So if you choose to build wisely. Build not just on attraction, but on alignment. Not just on chemistry, but on character. Ask yourself, can I pray with this person? Can I build with this person? Can I trust them in my silence, not just in my speech? These questions matter more than the color scheme of your wedding or the number of guests in the room. Marriage will teach you more about yourself than any mirror ever could. It will reveal your fears, your flaws, your triggers, and your treasures. It will stretch the way you love. It will confront the places in you that are still immature, still selfish, still afraid. And that is not something to fear, that is something to embrace. Because growth is the evidence of a living marriage. If you are the same person 5 years into marriage that you were at the altar, you have missed the point. Let the journey change you. Let it refine you. Let it strip away what is performative and strengthen what is authentic. I want you to know that beauty does not mean ease. This journey will not be without pain, but it will be full of purpose. There will be days that feel like joy incarnate and others that feel like work. But both are sacred, both are necessary, and both are worth it. Because in this journey, you are not just building a life, you are building a home. Not a house, but a home, a sanctuary, a place where your souls are known, loved, and safe. A place where peace is cultivated and where purpose is pursued together. That kind of home does not appear by accident. It is built intentionally, brick by brick, with patience, grace, forgiveness, laughter, and faith. So as you stand at the threshold of this new beginning, do not fear the unknown. Do not shrink back from the challenges, and do not buy into the myth that the story ends here. This is not the final page. This is the prologue. And how you write the rest of the story will be determined not by the grand gestures, but by the daily choices. The choice to be kind, the choice to be present, the choice to communicate when it's hard, the choice to seek help when needed, the choice to love, even when it's not convenient. These are the threads that will weave your marriage into something extraordinary. Let me leave you with this. Love is not passive. It is not merely a feeling that comes and goes with the tides. Love is a decision, a discipline, a spiritual practice. And in marriage, you will be invited to practice that love every day. When it's easy and when it's not. When you feel seen and when you feel misunderstood. When your plans align and when they diverge. But each of those moments is an invitation to deepen your intimacy, to refine your connection, to remember the sacred yes you gave. This is the beginning of a beautiful journey. Walk it with open hearts, build it with holy hands, and know that every step you take together is a seed planted, not just for today, but for a future rooted in love, purpose, and legacy. And because this journey is so sacred, so beautifully intricate, it must be guarded with intention. The truth is, nothing precious sustains itself without protection. The beauty of what you're building together will be tested by time, by circumstances, by your own internal struggles. You will face seasons where you feel more like roommates than soulmates, where the weight of life feels heavier than the joy of companionship. And in those moments, the foundation of your covenant will speak louder than your feelings. This is why it matters what you anchor your marriage to. If your anchor is social status, convenience, or image, you will drift when the storms come. But if your anchor is trust, truth, and shared purpose, you will find your way back to each other, even in the most uncertain seasons. We must be vigilant in protecting what we build. That means creating boundaries, not just with outsiders, but with ourselves. It means protecting your marriage from silent assumptions, from emotional neglect, from the slow erosion that comes when we prioritize everything else and leave each other with the leftover. A marriage thrives not just on grand gestures, but on the quiet commitments, showing up after a long day, choosing kind words over reactive ones, making space to ask, "How is your heart?" before rushing into the chaos of schedules and responsibility. It's in these small, consistent acts that intimacy deepens and safety is restored. Let's also speak honestly about conflict. It will come. Not because your love is weak, but because your love is alive. And where there is life, there is friction. You are two different people, shaped by different pasts, dreams, wounds, and ways of coping. Conflict is not the enemy. Avoidance is. Silence is. Passivity is. Healthy conflict is how we learn, how we heal, how we expand. But conflict must be handled with care, with listening that isn't just about waiting your turn to speak, with language that doesn't weaponize but restores, and with the humility to say, maybe I was wrong, even when it's uncomfortable. Every disagreement is an opportunity to build a bridge or to build a wall. Choose the bridge. You will not always feel in love. That is a truth most won't admit, but it is essential to acknowledge. Feelings are cyclical. They are impacted by sleep, stress, hormones, environment, and time. But the beauty of marriage is that it doesn't rise and fall on emotion. It is sustained by choice. You choose to love, even when you don't feel it. You choose to serve even when you're tired. You choose to lean in when you want to pull away. And ironically, it is in those hard choices that deeper feelings are often reborn. Not the infatuation of early romance, but the fierce, tested love that grows when two people have walked through the valley and come out holding hands. That love is not loud, but it is resilient. It may not sparkle, but it sustains. We must also honor the individual within the collective. Marriage does not mean the erasure of self. It means the expansion of self in communion with another. Do not lose your voice trying to preserve peace. Do not abandon your dreams out of fear. They will cause conflict. A healthy marriage creates room for both people to thrive, not in competition, but in support. Your partner's growth is not a threat to your stability, it is an invitation to evolve with them. When you marry someone, you are not just a spectator in their life. You are a partner in their becoming, and that becoming should include celebration, not sabotage. It should create space, not confinement. Let's also confront the reality that sometimes, despite all our best efforts, things will break. Promises may be strained, seasons may be darker than we imagined, and still, restoration is possible, redemption is possible, but only if we're willing to be honest. There is no healing without truth. There is no intimacy without honesty. If there is pain in your marriage, speak it. If there is distance, name it. Silence breeds assumptions, and assumptions kill connection. We cannot be healed from what we hide. Vulnerability is terrifying. Yes, but it is also the birthplace of transformation. If you want to be known, you must be seen. And to be seen, you must risk being vulnerable. That is the sacred exchange of marriage. This journey will require the constant return to grace, not just for your partner, but for yourself. You will make mistakes. You will say the wrong thing. You will respond from fear instead of faith. But grace says, try again. Grace says you are still growing. Grace reminds you that failure is not final, and that intimacy is built not in perfection, but in repair. The goal is not to never fall short. The goal is to keep coming back to each other again and again with humility and hope. That is where trust is strengthened. That is where love matures. Marriage also asks us to become emotionally literate, to not only know how to express our needs, but to recognize our wounds. So many arguments are not about the surface issue. They're about the deeper unspoken pain. About not feeling heard, not feeling valued, not feeling safe. We must learn to dig beneath the noise and ask, what's really going on in me? Self-awareness is not a luxury in marriage, it is a necessity. Because if we don't know how to process our own emotions, we will project them. We will punish our partner for pain they did not create. But when we take ownership of our emotional world, we create space for connection instead of confusion. Let's talk about joy, because it is just as sacred as resilience. Marriage is not only about surviving hard seasons, it's about delighting in the ordinary, about laughing over inside jokes, dancing in the kitchen, taking walks that go nowhere, building traditions that make your love feel like home. Joy is not something that just happens. It must be cultivated. It must be prioritized. Even amidst responsibility, even in the face of challenge, make time for fun, for wonder, for silliness. Because those moments become the glue that holds you together when life gets heavy. Those memories become sacred landmarks on your journey, reminders that even in the chaos, you have found joy in each other. Community matters too. A healthy marriage does not exist in isolation. You need people who will pour into you, who will pray with you, who will challenge you to grow. Surround yourselves with couples who model what you aspire to, not in perfection, but in intentionality. And be mindful of the voices you allow into your marriage. Not everyone who speaks has your best interest at heart. Protect your intimacy, honor your privacy, seek counsel, yes, but seek wise counsel. People who will not just take your side, but who will speak truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And let us never forget the spiritual dimension of marriage. This covenant is not just legal, it is spiritual. It is a partnership that carries divine potential. When two people are aligned, not just emotionally, but spiritually, they become a force. They become a sanctuary, not just for each other, but for others. A place where wisdom is birthed, where healing is nurtured, where purpose is sharpened. Pray together, not just in crisis, but in rhythm. Let God not just be a part of your marriage, but the center of it. Let his voice be louder than your pride. Let his grace be greater than your pain. Because when you invite the divine into your relationship, you create space for miracles, not just the kind that change circumstances, but the kind that transform hearts. And so I return to where we began. This is not the end. This is the beginning of shared purpose, of healing, of adventure, of growth. It is not the end of romance, but the invitation to deeper intimacy. Not the end of individual dreams, but the merging of vision. Not the end of becoming, but the sacred place where two people become more than they could ever be alone. Walk this journey with courage, with grace, with joy, and above all, with love. Not the fleeting kind, but the love that endures, that fights, that restores. You have been given a gift, not of perfection, but of possibility. What you do with it is up to you. But if you choose to honor it, to nourish it, to protect it, you will not just build a marriage, you will build a legacy, one that echoes in the lives you touch, in the children you raise, in the communities you influence, and in the story you write together. Let that story be one of fierce love, unshakable faith, and relentless grace. Because that, beloved, is the beauty of the beginning, and it is only just unfolding. And if we are honest, we must also acknowledge that beginnings are often wrapped in both joy and trembling. There's the beauty of newness, the excitement of building something fresh with someone you deeply love. And yet there's also the quiet voice that asks, will we make it? That's not doubt, it's awareness. It's the recognition that this journey, as breathtaking as it is, will demand everything of you. But let that awareness not lead you to fear. Let it lead you to reverence. Let it draw you into a deeper dependence on wisdom, patience. Because when you approach marriage with reverence, you understand that it is not something you own. It is something you steward. You begin to see your spouse not as a possession, but as a soul entrusted to your care. And that changes everything. We live in a time where permanence is rare, where the loudest messages around us say that if something no longer feels good, it can be replaced. But marriage does not operate like that. It is not disposable. It is not meant to be perfect. It is meant to be enduring. Endurance does not mean suffering in silence or pretending everything is fine. Endurance means holding on to each other through the honest, messy, necessary work of love. It means facing your weaknesses, not hiding them. Naming your fears, not burying them. Healing your past so that your future can be different. This kind of love is not loud, but it is steady. It is not about grand declarations. It is about the 1,000 small decisions to stay, to show up, to try again. To those who are already married and may feel the weariness of the road, I speak to your heart. Maybe you thought by now it would feel easier. Maybe you've lost pieces of yourself along the way and don't know how to reclaim them. Maybe you look at your partner and wonder how you became so distant. But I want you to know distance is not defeat. It is simply an invitation to reconnect, to repair, to remember. You are not beyond healing. You are not beyond restoration. You are not beyond intimacy. But it will require vulnerability and perhaps forgiveness, not just toward your spouse, but toward yourself. It will require you to lay down the mask of we're fine and tell the truth about what you need, about what you miss, about what still aches. That kind of honesty is not weak. It is sacred. And it is the first step toward rediscovering each other again. Marriage is not about control. It is not about changing the other person into your ideal image. It is not about winning arguments or keeping score. That is not love. That is performance. True love is rooted in freedom, in respect, in mutual submission. It is about learning to live with difference without letting it create division. It is about choosing to honor your partner's voice even when it challenges your own. It is about creating an environment where both people feel safe enough to be fully seen. Because the moment one person feels the need to hide, to shrink, or to silence their truth for the sake of peace, the relationship begins to erode. Peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of safety. And safety is created through trust, through truth, and through tenderness. We must also talk about the way marriage reshapes our understanding of time. You begin to realize that not every day will be extraordinary. Some days will feel painfully ordinary. The bills, the errands, the meetings, the parenting, the mess. But within that ordinariness is something sacred: consistency. A hand that reaches for yours without thinking. A kiss goodbye in the morning, not out of routine, but out of ritual. A shared look that speaks volumes without a word. These small repeated acts of love are what form the quiet foundation of a strong marriage. They may not make it to social media, but they are the evidence of intimacy. And over time, they build something far more meaningful than romance alone. They build trust, they build history, they build legacy. Marriage will call you to become a better listener, not just hearing your partner's words, but hearing their heart. Listening not to fix, not to defend, not to explain, but to understand, to create space where they feel safe to express without judgment. And in turn, you will find yourself being heard in ways you've never experienced before. That level of communication takes time. It takes patience. But it is one of the most life-giving parts of a marriage grounded in love. When you can speak openly and be received with compassion, healing happens. Intimacy deepens. Trust becomes unshakable. And let us not forget that marriage is generative. It produces something far beyond the couple. It births emotional and spiritual legacies. It impacts children, not just in what is said, but in what is lived. Children learn about love by watching it practiced, not preached. They learn about respect by witnessing how their parents navigate disagreement. They learn about commitment by observing how love endures through seasons. If there are children born of your union or children who simply witness your life, know this: the marriage you build is shaping more than your present. It is informing their future. That is not pressure. That is purpose. And that purpose should remind you that what you do together matters. How you love matters. What you repair matters. What you forgive matters. Now, as we move deeper into this vision of marriage as the beginning, I want to challenge the notion that your union should look like anyone else's. Comparison is the enemy of intimacy. The moment you begin to measure your marriage against someone else's highlight reel, you rob yourself of the beauty that is uniquely yours. You are not called to mimic. You are called to cultivate. Your story is your own. Your rhythm is your own. Your language of love is your own. And when you stop chasing someone else's version of success, you begin to experience the richness of what your marriage was always meant to be. Honest, unpolished, alive. Let this be your reminder that love does not always look like butterflies and fireworks. Sometimes it looks like folding the laundry without being asked. Sometimes it looks like turning off your phone and truly listening. Sometimes it looks like standing in silence together after a hard conversation, knowing that even in the discomfort, you are choosing one another. Love is practical. Love is gritty. Love is spiritual. It is all of those things at once. And the more you embrace the fullness of that truth, the more beauty you will find in every stage of your journey. For those who have experienced loss in marriage, whether through separation, betrayal, or the death of a spouse, I see you. This message is not meant to ignore your pain. Your grief is valid. Your story matters. And while today's message celebrates beginnings, it also honors those who have had to rebuild. Sometimes the most sacred journeys are the ones that break us open and teach us how to love again. First ourselves, then others. Healing is possible. Redemption is possible. And even if your journey doesn't look like what you imagined, there is still beauty to be found in the becoming. So here we are, standing at the threshold of the beginning. And I ask you, will you honor it? Will you walk this journey, not with fear, but with faith, not with performance, but with purpose, not with a desire to impress, but a desire to build,